Hey,
Hello.
Markus, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you and I can see you. I have a problem with my camera. I don't have a camera on this, and I tried connecting a third party, whatever, like an external camera, but it doesn't seem to be working. Is it a problem if I come in without video?
No, I mean, it's better if you can find something, but it's not an issue.
Now, so if you want something to look at, I can just stream Isaac while I'm talking to you. If that's something that you want to put on the stream.
Yeah, I mean, if we
Like I'm planning to.
yeah, as long as it's footage that we can show without any copyright issues, then yeah. If it's not someone else's.
It is my footage. I'm going to be playing it right now because I have to. I don't know if you've played. Have you played the game? Have you played The Binding of Isaac?
Yes, it was probably the original that I played. I don't think I've played any of the DLCs or the different versions. I don't think. Let me
Okay.
maybe I've seen Rebirth, but I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah.
the newest one I touched on. Definitely seen Wrath of the Lamb. Yeah.
Right. That's like OG Isaac.
Yeah, like 10 years ago.
That's
Apparently, Rebirth.
yeah. That's the Flash. Yeah. Yeah. Rebirth is like the base game. So the music that I had made was for something called Antibirth. I don't know if you know where that comes from.
Yeah, so that's basically the mod, the fan made expansion, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. So you made music for that, and I
So
actually couldn't. I tried to dig up information about it because I saw that on your site you commented about the Repentance soundtrack. I'm not sure if that was like simply because fans wanted you to be the composer for that, or were there any talks for you actually doing it at some point?
no. So there were no. Yeah. There's no like confirmation or any. There's nothing from Edmund's side, the guy who made the game, Edmund
Yeah.
McMillan. But like a lot of people they wanted me to do the music because I'd done it for Antibirth. But
Yeah.
Edmund had like a good relationship with his, like his musicians, Ridiculon, who've done
Sure.
the original music for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's completely his call, and yeah, I completely respect that. And Ridiculon seemed like cool guys as well. Like I texted them and messaged them and said that I don't have any hard feelings, and they were like really chill about it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I'm double checking because the information isn't like super clear about that. But yeah, I a lot of people definitely wished that you were gonna do some music for that.
Yeah, let me just tell you the story about the game so that there's some context to what you're seeing on my screen as well, like the game that I'm playing and why I'm playing it right now. So I had made music for the Antibirth mod, which is like a third-party kind of a fan-made mod for The Binding of Isaac, which came out just before the official mod that Edmund released came out. And people really loved it. They loved the mod, they loved the gameplay ideas and everything that they came up with, and the music as well. And after that, Edmund kind of incorporated Antibirth into the game in an official release called Repentance. So right now, my music is complete up until Repentance. I think I'm confused too. I really don't know. I haven't been keeping up with it. Like I've stopped playing it. I haven't played it for a really long time. But my music is complete. Pre-Repentance. My music is complete up till Antibirth Plus, which is the previous previous DLC that was released, and now I need to make a few more tracks to make the music complete up till Repentance, which is the latest sort of thing, which has more levels and whatever enemies and everything. So I need to play the game a bit to get a feel of those levels so that I can make music for it.
Yeah, cool. So we can sort of do two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So how did you originally get involved with that mod or that expansion?
So I've been playing Isaac. I've been watching Let's Plays of Isaac, and I've been playing it for a really long time. And I make music for a living. I'm in India. Like I live in Bangalore, and I've been making music for ads and for like corporate stuff for a really long time. I think it's been it's been almost 20 years now, I think. And to be honest, it's not a very exciting job for me because I don't like dealing with clients. I don't like dealing with changes. I think no musician does. Like you don't want to hear people say that can we do this to your music? Can we change it? And like no artist would like stuff like that. So after a certain point, I was just like kind of burnt out on the whole thing. I've been doing it for really long, and I thought that I'll do something for myself that I feel excited about. And I made like a fan-made kind of soundtrack for the original Isaac. And I just put it up on Reddit, on the Binding of Isaac subreddit. And the guys who are doing the Antibirth mod, Kilburn and Leather Ice Cream and Not Your Sagittarius, these are their screen names. So Kilburn contacted me and asked if I'd be interested in doing it for this mod. And I was like, yeah, why not? And that's kind of how I got involved. I didn't expect it to be like super successful, but the mod was great, and people like heard the music with the mod, and like it kind of took a life of its own, basically.
Yeah. It seems like the mod route is it's a really solid idea to go through if you want to sort of get into the industry and get some eyeballs. I had Peter Sumelius on the podcast. He's known as Pepsen. He did this music for a RimWorld mod, and that was
okay.
That was really well received. And now I don't know if you've heard of the game Shapes. It's with like a Z, but it's Shapes 2 actually came out just maybe a few days ago, or maybe a week or two ago, and he did the music for that. But yeah, I mean, he basically just wanted to, give the game the music that he wanted to make or hear, and it sort of took off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, probably one of the best best things you can be doing as a new composer, getting into the video game scene. So, are you a big gamer yourself, or what's your background with video games?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I've been playing games forever. Like it's what I do when I have downtime. But I'm not like up to date. I don't play the latest games. It's just like a few games that kind of capture my imagination. But like the last game that I played, I think the last new game that I played was maybe Starfield, I think. Like I haven't been playing any of the latest and greatest, whatever. I have a lot of games on my backlog. But Isaac was something that I started. I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah, it seems like
Isaac was something.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I think there's a lot of lag between our lag on our connection.
Yeah.
So excuse me if I keep stepping on your toes.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's a bit easier if I had a video feed as well, so then I can see if someone's beginning to talk, but it's fine.
Right. So I forgot what I was going to say.
I was just going to say, like, seems like people who, get into the Binding of Isaac, they really get into it. Like all the streamers, they like stream it for a long time and they stream it a lot. And also I also have a lot of like gamer friends, and they have spent, God knows how many hours on the game. So
yeah.
Definitely one of those kind of hooking ones, addicting ones.
Yeah. Do you play a lot of games? Are you a gamer yourself?
Well, I am in the sense that I absolutely love video games. These days, I just don't have any time. If I have any time to play, I will play the video game that I'm working on right now called Breachway. So,
okay.
So, yeah, if I have any time, I'll play that, because obviously that helps me write music for it, but it also, I can do playtesting as well to, share my
Right.
ideas and thoughts. And but it's really tough because basically I wake up, we have a 2-year-old kid. So we basically take care of his morning stuff, and then I'm off to work. And when I get back, I'm with him for a couple of hours, and then it's straight to bed. So not a ton of time, and playing takes a lot of time. So
Right.
especially the kind of I'm not like a very shallow player, I wouldn't say. I don't remember a lot of
Right.
games that are sort of, fast and quick to play. So I like to, because for me, video games are pretty much the ultimate art form. So I
Right.
want to dig deep into it. And, a good gaming session is probably going to be a few hours. So yeah, I just don't have that kind of luxury right now.
Right.
But yeah,
You like to dig into the meat.
yeah. It's like should be a artistic experience. So it's going to take a
Right.
few hours. But when I was younger, I would play a lot of video games. Probably it kind of began to taper off maybe at the end of my time at university. That's probably when I stopped
Right.
putting so much into it.
Right.
Yeah. But I have some friends who play like a ton, like a lot, like hours every day. And I was never like that. I would sort of more, play in kind of spurs, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, I've always tried to not get too caught up in it, because it can absolutely become addicting and unresourceful as well. So there needs to be like a balance.
Right.
Balance between things.
I've heard so when you reached out to me, I heard one of your podcasts, which is about it was not the interviews, but another podcast that you'd basically spoken about how it's important to. It was almost like a philosophy of music. Like, I've forgotten what the exact topic of it was, but it was about how you have to be strong against like people giving you kind of negative vibes for your music as an artist. Do you remember the episode that you're talking about? Yeah. So
it's I can try and look it up if it doesn't quite. Is it something to do with like feedback?
maybe I'm.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I think maybe it has something to do with feedback. It was.
Yeah, there's like
Sorry, go ahead.
almost 100 episodes now, so I don't quite quite remember what it is. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of it's like you said, you touched on artists, and specifically you used the word artist, which I think is very accurate and applicable, that they don't like to be messed with too much. Like, as an artist, you write your creations, or you create your creations, whatever you may be doing. But as a musician, you write your music, and you sort of want to keep it true and pure and authentic to your experience. And if
you want to keep it personal.
Yeah, that's it's a big part of it.
Yeah.
It's like it needs to, from the artist's perspective, to be pure. It needs to be true to to the form that you want to pursue. And if you let too many things in between you and the art, like certain types of feedback or criticism or negativity, then that can absolutely completely disrupt the experience.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's there are many different forms of collaboration. I can definitely imagine and have been in positions where you're creating something with somebody, and it's like it doesn't feel like you completely line up in terms of chemistry, because it's possible to collaborate with somebody and there's a bit of feedback, but the feedback is very applicable. Like it feels correct to you, even as an artist, and you go like, yeah, that's actually true.
Right.
Let me change this and that would actually be truer to the thing that I'm trying to create. Versus sometimes, you can send music to somebody and they just don't get it at all. So you're not at all in the same shared creative space at all. And that can be very saddening to an artist. It can make you feel very lonely and also disconnected to the thing that you're trying to create.
Yeah. That's a good word to use. It's about, so ultimately, like the reason that I brought this up is when you said that video games are like you want to be at a point where playing doesn't feel like it's taking away, rather like it doesn't feel like you're addicted to it or whatever. Yeah. So that is part of life, right? You want to balance your creative energy to the point where you're enjoying playing and it feels like you're building up creative energy rather than just like burning it up. And the same thing kind of applies to making music as well. It applies to anything. Like it applies to every creative endeavor that we do. So for stuff like this, for like making music for games and for making music for clients, let's say, that's something that that's the reason I started doing this, because I was tired of doing stuff where people were telling me, and it's fine because they're paying you. That is your job. Like as a professional, you want to make sure that they are getting what they want, even though you may not agree with what they want. For example, like in India, there's this whole thing about like, you have a lot of like cultural things that I like. Some people I don't agree with. For example, like there are fairness creams where the like darker skin is considered negative, and people wear like put on fairness cream so they become fairer, so they appear more beautiful or whatever stuff. So I've had to do stuff like that, where people who work on their account, who like the actual people who work on those ads, they don't believe in it, but they do it because that's their job. So at some point you have to separate that part of you, which is the craft, and the part of you which is putting yourself into your music. You're making music for it, so it is a very personal process. And I'd run out of things to give. Like I was burning out. Like I did not have any well to kind of pull from. And when I did this, it was purely from the point of view where I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. I did not want it to be successful, or I didn't care like what people felt about it. But then to have people enjoy it and come back and say stuff like, like this gave me like while I was in college, I was just listening to this while I was feeling lonely or when I had a breakup or whatever stuff. And it's been my soundtrack for things. That's an amazing experience. You're sharing someone's life with them. And I have felt that with other like forms of art. Like I felt that while I was playing Isaac, or even while I was watching someone play. So I like for a large part of my life, I used to watch this Let's Player called Northern Lion. He was like an Isaac, like a big Isaac YouTuber. And I had insomnia for a long time. So I used to go to sleep listening to him just play, his voice and his like gameplay of it. And I think I picked up the game just watching him. And to be part of that for someone else, I think is like super satisfying for me.
Yeah. No, I think it's one of the basic needs for artists to well, maybe there's
I wonder.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
I wonder if a lot of people, so when you say that's a basic need for artists, I don't know if a lot of artists feel that way, because I've also spoken to people who when you talk about art, they're more concerned about being successful. Like they just want to make it big rather than to have something satisfying on a personal level.
Well,
isn't that?
I would then question whether they are artists, because it's right. Like you said, it's entirely possible to be a professional. You can be professional and create works of a certain, good quality from a sort of a technical point of view. Because, for example, I know a lot of media composers, which is something that I don't want to be as a definition, meaning that there's a piece of work that comes to you, and your job is to just kind of put music to it. That's not to say media composers can't be artists, because I think many of them are. But to be on this sort of conveyor belt of, because they are on extremely tight schedules. Like you have no time.
I mean, that's pretty much what I do as well. Like for ads and for events and stuff, I guess I would call myself a media composer. So I really know the grind.
Yeah, yeah, and as you know, it's like you don't have time to develop any ideas. Like you need to do something now, and it needs to be good at a certain, at least kind of technical level. Like it needs to, the basic sonic characteristics need to fit the mission. But in terms of creating depth, like artistic depth, that's going to be super difficult. Like maybe you catch it every once in a while, but the schedules are so crazy that it's going to be super tough. So yeah, I mean, I would, to me, one of the basic definitions of an artist is that they yearn for authenticity. Like that is a mode of being for them that is only that is acceptable. Really, I mean, they can do other jobs as well, but they probably will suffer as a consequence of that. Like it will be physically painful for them. So yeah, I would question whether people who chase status or resources, money, etc. They're probably not doing an artistic endeavor if they're following those kind of things. Again, maybe they are artists inside, but if they don't feed that part of their spirit, then they're not actually acting as artists, at least in the here and now.
Yeah, and I think to that point, I think it's important to demarcate those two things: the craft and the art. So when you say be a better artist, it's more of a philosophical question. It's not about like what instruments do you use, like how do you how do you make a tune, or it's not about that process, which is I think a question that a lot of musicians get asked, like how do you come up with a melody? Because there's so much more to that process than just like, okay, I might start with a C and then I add an E and then it's not about that. That's the craft of it, which comes from practice. But the art of it is something that comes from you as a person. So it's about you living the life that gives you those kind of inspirations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why at first when I started this podcast and I thought about the name, I was like, am I painting myself in a corner with this? I knew sort of deep down that it felt right as a name, but I didn't quite understand why or how. But I've come to realize that I have formulated this kind of sentence, which is that anything can be done artfully, and doing so is called artistry. Because I could, I would look at someone doing a sport, and I would be like, at its best, again, you can play a sport just mechanically. You can just do it, go through the motions, have good technique, which is kind of the equivalent of being like a instrumentalist, if we think about like a violin or piano player. Doesn't mean they're an artist. But then, back in the sport, you can have somebody who transcends that and takes it to a level of beauty. And I guess I'll just stick to beauty, that it becomes so beautiful that it becomes artistic in terms of what they do. So I realized I can really have just about anyone on the podcast, as long as they take their craft to that, artistic level. I can have a business person here if I think there's an art to what they do. I can have a sports person. I can have anyone from anywhere. The key thing is, are they an artist in what they do? And is there an art to what they do? So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, as far as I could tell, I couldn't find whether, and sorry if I butcher this pronunciation, but Mudeth, is that how you pronounce your?
No, so I pronounce it Mudeth. So it's because I used to be a big fan of Megadeth.
Okay.
I used to be a big fan of Megadeth, and so Mu is like micro. That was like my college kind of like handle, like I used it online. I just stuck with it.
Okay, cool.
Micro death.
That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, I mean, just in terms of like a bit of the context, I was listening music randomly on Apple Music, and then something came on, and I was like,
Right.
wow, this immediately captured my attention. I was like, this is really cool stuff. And then I, looked it up, and that I think it was "Machine in the Walls," which is
Right.
a lot of your fans seem to like that or love that track as well.
Yeah, yeah, which I mean, honestly, I don't. It's awesome, but I don't get why that track appeals to so many people. Because I think there are some other tracks that while I was doing it, I was more like, oh wow, this sounds awesome. But it's one of those things, right? You can't predict how people respond to something.
Yeah, that's one of
And
the coolest things about making music, because you have all of this ideas of, oh, this is going to be the hit, or this is going to be the focus big track, and then you put it out and it doesn't quite play the way like that. Which tracks, from your perspective, would have been the ones that you really thought would be like the centerpieces?
That's not about, I mean, yeah. So it wasn't about the centerpieces really, but I just thought some, like for example, there's a track called, I forgot what it's called, the Necropolis track, The Hammer of Pompeii. The Hammer of Pompeii is a track that was really strongly inspired by the original, the Flash Isaacs Necropolis track. Danny B's Necropolis track, which had this section where the whole track would slow down and then it would go into this kind of ambient zone, and then the strings would come in. So there was that, which I thought was a really cool callback. I thought the Cathedral track was really cool, which I think a lot of people do like, but not as much as Machine in the Walls. Yeah,
that's interesting, because it's kind of like, that sounds like it's more influenced by your sort of logical expectation of the reference back to, Danny Baranovsky's music. So
a lot of my tracks are actually like they are references to games and movies and like even music that I follow. Some of the references I think people are still not kind of like decoded, which is kind of cool. But that also works with the game, because this game is a very referential game. So if you've played, you have played it, right? You've played like a couple of hours of it.
Yeah.
Of the Binding of Isaac. So the game is has a lot of references to Edmund's childhood and his memories of playing and his growing up, and it's a very personal story that is kind of filtered through him, and like with his imagination he's created this whole world. So the items that you pick up are from like Zelda or whatever, from Mario and stuff like that, and the characters are from like the Bible, and it's from the whole religious thing that he's gone through. So that is another thing of art, right? Like you take influences or things that have happened to you, you filter it through yourself, and then you put your twist on it or your perspective on it, and you put it out there. So I think that way, thematically, it's not like I expected the reference to be a thing, but I think the whole idea of the soundtrack being very referential like works for me.
Yeah, and I think that must be one of the reasons why resonates with people so much. People seem to feel very, very strongly about how well your artistic vision links up with the artistic vision of the game itself, and I'm sure that's a big reason why so many people love it.
Right.
Cool. So you're in Bangalore now?
Yes, I am in Bangalore, and I've been working really, really hard. And next month I'm off to Goa, which is like this kind of holiday place, like near it's a beach state in India, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm off for a month.
Nice, month long.
But yeah, right now I am in Bangalore. Yeah.
Yeah. So were you born there or somewhere else?
Yeah. I've lived here all my life.
Yeah.
I've lived here all my life, but I think unlike a lot of Indians, I've grown up consuming a lot of Western media. Like I've been into computers, I've been into like English music for a long time. I didn't really listen to a lot of Bollywood, like Indian music, but I think now the music is also kind of getting music is getting diluted as well. Like influences from all over the world are coming into Indian music as well. So kids who are growing up in India right now, they have more international influences in their art, in the kind of stuff that they're watching and listening to as well. But yeah, I think for me, a lot of the influences, like a lot of the games that I played were from. I mean, obviously, all video games are from the West. A lot of the movies I watched, cartoons I watched, and everything. Like I have a lot of that.
And would you say that's very atypical to like the average, person growing up?
Not not very atypical, but it's definitely a minority. I'm not so in touch with like Indian memes, like the whole Indian kind of thing. Yeah, I'm getting better at it now because of subscribing to Indian Reddits and Indian like whatever channels and stuff. But on the whole, I feel this is my comfort zone. Like this is where I like staying.
And were you were always like that? So would sort of drawn more towards the Western world rather than.
I mean, I was primarily like I was a kind of a loner kid. I think a lot of us who are into podcasts are. If you have a podcast, you probably are the type that grew up alone or prefers spending time, thinking and doing those kind of things. So that lent itself to consuming this kind of media, I guess. Because I had like cassettes and I used to sit in the car and I used to listen to like whatever, like Madonna and freaking London Boys. What's his name? There's this guy, Paul, Living the Love of the Common People. The Common People. What's his name?
I don't know.
Oh, man.
Sorry.
It's a really, oh, man, I need to look this up.
How old are you, by the way?
I am 40 now.
Okay, yeah. So you're about six years older than I am, just for reference.
Than you?
So,
oh, okay.
Yeah. I probably look ancient, but yeah, 34 now, and I'll be 35 in December. I think it's hard. It's hard to keep track. Surprisingly.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I really don't give a shit about. Can I curse? I guess I can.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You can talk whatever.
Yeah,
way you want.
Yeah, I really don't give a shit about my age because as I'm growing older, I feel like that's more immaterial. It's about how young you keep yourself mentally.
Mm. No, yeah, for sure. I think if you see like a older person who seems to be in good health and good spirit, it's almost always they somehow manage to think like a younger person, like they keep themselves young mentally somehow.
Yeah.
And usually,
and I think part of that is being open to new ideas, which I hope I'm able to do.
Yeah. No, it completely makes sense, because if your mind is thinking, well, I've seen everything and done everything, I know what everything is about, then what's the reason to keep things around anymore? It's sounds pretty brutal, but yeah, if you think the world is full of new, exciting, interesting things, then that's surely going to keep you more fresh at the very least. Yeah. So tell
me about yourself as well, Markus. You've heard about me. Tell me about yourself. Where are you from in Finland? What is your life like? You said you're working on a game.
Yeah. So born in Finland, I was born in a city called Oulu, which is the biggest kind of more northern cities of Finland. And then my parents moved to the south coast when I was just a baby, like just I think a few months old. And so I grew up in this city called Turku, which is where I live now.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up here. Yeah, I never felt at home in the city or the country. Really, it's not. It didn't really reflect my sort of internal landscape. I would say. So I always, wanted to be somewhere else doing something else, and that was pretty much my life. I'd say probably until the end of high school, and then I tried studying. I think it was furniture design for a couple of years, but because I ultimately did want to do music, but I didn't think it was possible, or I didn't see any way how it could be possible, and did that for a couple of years. Got quite depressed as a result of that, and during that time,
Why?
Well, I just life seemed pretty. Like nothing I made any sense to me. Like nothing I did made any sense to me. So
Right.
I think it's a pretty in a way kind of a logical conclusion to be pretty depressed, because your life isn't really amounting to anything that makes sense to you. But I stopped studying that. Then I worked for a bit, and then during that time. I applied to study music composition and music technology in London, and it was kind of like a Hail Mary thing.
Right.
I didn't think I would get in, or I didn't think I could make the whole thing sort of make sense financially, etc. But
Right.
I applied and I got in. One person got in for the course that I applied for, and that happened to be me that time, and then
wow.
I spent the next almost 4 years in London studying, and after that I sort of, to be honest, I almost quit after the first year, but I stuck around because, for a number of reasons, but basically what I'm trying to get to is that I've always been very entrepreneurial. Like I've always wanted to do my own thing and do the thing
Right.
that I'm interested in. After studying in London, I realized I didn't really have many reasons to stay in the city, because it's super expensive, and I didn't really want to climb someone else's ladder and become an assistant to someone. No, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure if I went down that road, I would have been, excited about it in a different way. But
Right.
I moved back to Finland, and then I started to, do my own thing. So, and I've been, doing music and media and other stuff ever since. So, and right now I'm scoring the soundtrack for Breachway, which is kind of like do you know FTL?
Yeah, I love FTL. I love the music in FTL.
So
as
it's
well.
like kind of like FTL meeting Slay the Spire, if you know that one.
I haven't played Slay the Spire, but I think isn't it a card game? It's a collectible card game.
Yeah,
Deck builder rather. Sorry.
Yeah, deck builder. So basically, there's a tower that you're trying to ascend, and you have to fight enemies, and it's like a card-based strategic, strategic game. You fight enemies, and they attack you. You attack based on a card-based system, and so Breachway is basically you have a spaceship, you fly through different star systems, trying to get to the end point, and it's basically like FTL but with card-based.
Got it. Yeah.
combat. If we put it simply, it's a bit more.
Right.
We're trying to make it a bit more sort of engaging, I guess. Like in FTL, the world building is quite minimal, and there's basically no dialogue. I mean, you get text boxes and stuff like that, but we want to have a bit more on that front as well. But that's the basic basic summary of my.
That sounds interesting. Right. That sounds cool.
Yeah, we should be releasing into early access next month, just about in a month.
Okay.
So we'll see how it goes. Our publisher is Hooded Horse, who did. I don't know if you follow kind of they're like a strategy game publisher. Probably most notably, they published Manor Lords. If you,
I've heard of that. I think I might have it. I have a lot of games that I've. No, I don't have it, but I have heard of it.
Yeah, it's like a medieval city, a town builder, where you can also do combat and stuff like that.
Right.
Or if you know Falling Frontier, that's like a space strategy game. That's not out yet, but it's pretty. A lot of people seem to be quite excited about it. So that's another one.
Right. So when you work, like when you say we, you have someone like doing the programming and stuff, and you're doing the design. Is that how it works?
So I only do the music. I mean, I contribute any and all ideas that I have. So it's a small team. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 of us. So there's like the lead designer. Then we have the lead programmer. Then 2 guys who do a bunch of stuff, but one is like doing the card programming, I think, and he also does the ship design, and the other guy does like visual effects and also other kind of smaller programming things. But it's a small team, and it's been very sort of close, to put it simply, And I love the game as well. So obviously I want to see it do well, and I want it to be everything that I would look for in that game. And
right.
Most of it is there. So.
Right. Yeah. So that's something that I think for someone who's trying to do their own thing, like if you're doing your own music, if you just want to, let's say you want to make an album, to have to be self-motivated in the first place, at least for me, I think it's quite a tricky situation, because you don't know who you're like. You don't have anything to bounce off against. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing this project for? What is the end goal of this project? Do you want to make money with it, or do you want to just like do something and learn? Do you want to spend? Do you just want to blow 1 hour, 1 hour of your life away and sit with your synthesizer and do something? So that, especially because I've been working with music for a while, when I try to do something of my own, it's a little difficult to kind of recalibrate to that. But I think if you have a team of people who are going in the same direction, there might be some momentum there, right?
Yeah, and it's like this kind of goes back to the whole mod thing, because you have, like you said, you have something to work against. Yeah, it's truly like one of the best pieces of advice to take a game that you love, but you maybe hear the soundtrack being different, or at least you would have a different take on what you would do for that game. And so you have the ready game. You don't have to, wonder and ponder whether it's going to change or shift one way or the other. So you have a fixed reference point, like you said. You don't need to, think about what that is going to be. It's done, it's ready, it's complete, and then you can bounce back and forth, between your music and that game, try and make it work. So I really think it's one of the best ways to get into this. And if you love it, if you do a good work, there's a decent chance that at least some people out there are going to feel the same way about it.
Right.
Maybe not most. Maybe it's only going to be a few people, but already if you manage to create something that a few people love, creatively speaking, that's already a pretty significant accomplishment. It's pretty hard to do.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what the kind of words I've used. I don't remember in what context, but if you like it, there's going to be someone else who does as well. So just be true to yourself about whether you really enjoy it, whether you really enjoy listening to or experiencing whatever you've created.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what I think you as an artist yearn for. Artists in general yearn for. Like, it doesn't, like, let's say you write a soundtrack and you're not really happy with it and you don't care about it, and then you start getting all this praise and acknowledgement. It's probably not going to mean much to you because you're not excited about it. So that's why I say like it's better to create something that you absolutely love and have 5 people say that they love it, versus having 10,000 people say, oh, this is good, and it doesn't mean anything to you.
So the flip side to that is sometimes you end up, at least like for me, sometimes I've worked on a track for so long that I've lost context. Like I don't know whether it's good anymore, because part of the whole appeal of a track is the surprise of it, right? When you listen to it for the first time and it does something unexpected. But then when you've been hearing it for so long, you kind of what's going to happen, and your brain knows the track. There's nothing new that you're surprised by, and it's difficult to judge at that point when you worked on it for really that long. And then there are times when I don't really feel anything for a track. Whatever, I've done it and I've left it out there. But then sometimes maybe after a year or a couple of years, I haven't heard it, and then I just hear it and I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's something that I did. That's a pretty clever thing, because I've forgotten the elements in the track or whatever, the chord progression or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, I think that's in part because we also change. We don't stay the same. So, and this is why I say because unfortunately a lot of artists never release stuff. So they have an idea of, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then years go by and they never have done it. And then you ask, what their plans are, and they're still the same plans. But the thing is, that's the plan of you 5 or 10 years ago, which means that you haven't had but you haven't had a lot of artistic growth during that period. And so I say that you should embrace what is available to you right now, because in a certain time span, it's probably not going to be there for the taking anymore. So I know that today I'm going to write certain type of music that I'm not going to write in 5 or 10 years. And I try and embrace that. And that's why I try and move as fast as I possibly can. And the other side is, like, if you do wait 5 or 10 years to create that album and you write it and you realize, you probably don't realize it, but you're gonna basically, because you haven't had any of that artistic growth in the meanwhile, you're working with ideas that are basically 5 or 10 years old for you, and they're probably not very refined, because you haven't worked on them for 5 or 10 years. It's tough, but people should release music pretty much as often as they possibly can, because that's going to be the fastest way.
That's something that I need to do myself, actually, because I'm just like for example, this album or whatever, this last Volume of Antibirth, I've been postponing for a long time. But yeah, I guess that's something that I need to do.
Yeah, and same here. I mean, I know this in theory, but how well I can apply it in practice is a different story. Sometimes I succeed in it, but like it's been a long time since I released music. So, I'm also trying
Right.
to preach to myself here. And obviously, a lot of stuff has happened. We had the kid. I've had a bunch of different jobs, and mainly it's because Breachway has been going on for a long time, and I've really
Right.
not had any other extra time to put into any other music, and I can't release Breachway yet, and it hasn't been in the state that it would be ready for a release. So it's been a long time, and it's really tough because life happens and life throws curveballs at you. So it's easier said
Yeah.
than done, but it's important to understand the theory of what is the ideal scenario and then just try work towards that and work under those definitions. But it's
I think in other, like at least for me, I don't know if this is true for you, but I think another big aspect to this is the fear of putting out something that you're not completely happy with. It's just not good enough. I think a lot of people suffer from that. They're like, okay, it's good, but maybe it could be better. Maybe I need to work on it a little bit longer. And then sometimes you end up overworking, like like overproducing or just putting in too much, and you've lost all interest in the track. And sometimes the speed of like a rough idea can be more interesting than like working on it for too long. But these are lessons that you have to learn for yourself because it's part of everyone's individual process.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's 100% true because there's going to be a point of diminishing returns. So you kind of reach the peak of what you can sort of spontaneously quickly produce. And then you start to invest more and more time in it. Maybe you work on the arrangement or the mix, etc. But it's really not like maybe you're making percentage gains, but it's,
Yeah.
Let's say that gives you an extra 5% even. That's still not going to be the difference that's going to make your music, click with somebody. Because still, like the brunt of it, the brunt of those percentages is in the core composition. It's in what you created in that short time. So just spending more time with it, like you said, is probably not going to produce the kind of gains that you're looking to get. And also, like you said,
And
it's possible to
can be counterproductive because
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lose perspective.
sometimes just taking a yeah yeah, sometimes just taking a break and coming back, you just listen to it and you'll be like, you know what, this part is not working, but I can hear something completely different because I'm fresh. Like I'm completely blank now. Yeah, ideally, you want to be starting with a blank. The most exciting part about music for me when I was growing up, like I've been doing this for a really long time. I've been doing it while I think I started playing the keyboard when I was like 5. And right from the early days, I just liked coming up with stuff because that blank canvas is so exciting. Like you have these infinite number of places that you can go to from there. And if you just take a break from something that you're frustrated with and then you just do something completely different, have a nice time, like go get a drink or like just go out for a walk and then come back in, and then you'll just hear something, you'll get that excitement back. And that's where everything flows from, once you get into that state.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's something we've talked a lot about, especially on the interviews on the podcast, is that, once you begin to hit that wall and it's not progressing and you're not sure if you might even be making it worse, just stop, go do something else. And sometimes, like, if you're really close to the music, maybe you have to take a week off. Like, maybe you have to take a good chunk of time that makes you miss music. Yeah. And also, like you said, I love forgetting my own music because then when I come back to it, then I'm like, it's like almost like a new experience. Not quite, but I don't listen to my old music almost ever. And every once in a while, when I do, I usually,
Yeah.
I might cry legitimately because, I feel the
Right.
same, emotions and same inspiration sort of flow back. And I'm like, oh, that's really good stuff now. Like, that's the reason I made it. So same thing for like, and this is one of the reasons why I never, but I try to never listen to any of my, work in progress demos of tracks when I'm at home or somewhere else. So the only place
Right.
where I allow myself to listen to the music I'm working on is in the studio while I'm working on it. Because like you said,
Right.
you're fighting that familiarity. And if it becomes
Yeah.
obvious and familiar and predictable to you, then
Yeah.
that's by default, that's not a creative position to occupy. So it's very
Yeah.
difficult to work on it. Cool. But
I mean, even with this game, like Isaac, since this is something that is on screen right now, like a lot of these ideas are really, like, if you think about it, they're really stupid. If you spend too much time thinking about them, like piles of poop hiding coins, or like a turd that's floating around and sliding around on the floor. If you think too much and you're like, oh, is it a good idea? Is it a thing? But no, it's part of your personality, part of your force of character that you want to put out, and that's what this whole thing is about. I think that's something that a lot of people do struggle with as like when they start making music, because you always have a template. You feel like you want to be up there. You want to be up there with the people who deliver the finished product, which is polished and it sounds like you've been doing this for a long time. It's ready for the radio. It's ready to be there on TV and stuff like that. But you're going at it. You're approaching it from the wrong direction, according to me. Rather than that, if you go from the idea from the side that, is this interesting? Is this something that I would want to, is this something that captures anyone's imagination, takes you to a different place? The rest of it comes with time. The rest of it is learnable. But this part is it's almost like a sort of a Zen thing. You have to trick your mind into treating it as something not too important.
no, absolutely. And a lot of the time people unfortunately want to jump into a phase that they're not in. Like a lot of the time you need to, that's why I'm really kind of bullish on releasing your music, because until it's out there, you don't actually have to face its true form. Because if the music is on your hard drive, you can always imagine what it could be. You can always imagine, okay, I'm going to improve the arrangement or the melody or the harmony of this and that, or the mixing of this and that. And that's not real. So the rubber doesn't meet the road, and therefore you can only learn once you see where things truly are. And that's why you have to release it so that it's on Apple Music and Spotify and YouTube, and then people comment on it and you realize, oh, I can't jump in there anymore to change this or that. And that forces you to learn, because there's going to be things in there that annoy you, and because they annoy you, you're going to look for solutions to fix them. So this is the issue of, it's never, you get better at this the more experience you have and the more sort of professional you get, because then you can do that process on your own in your studio.
Right.
But it's still, even at the top level, it's not the same thing. You really need to kind of put the stamp on it, say this is ready, put it out there, and then you learn. And there's, when you're working on something, you can make leaps and bounds in learning certain things, but there's a limit to that. You can't do it endlessly and, work on your first album for 20 years and then it's going to be a hit. I mean, yes, it can be possible, but that's in most cases not going to happen. Again, because you're not confronted by reality. You're not confronted by the truth.
Right. So you kind of recalibrate yourself when you put something out there, and when you hear it, with that context. Like sometimes when you're listening to a track by yourself versus when you're showing it to someone else and you're sitting next to them, it's almost like you're hearing it through their eyes, right? Like you get that
Yes.
feeling, and you sometimes you may cringe, or you may be like, oh, this part sounds better than I thought it did. And when you release it, like you're saying, you learn to recalibrate. You build that separate sort of machine that can process that separately from your creative part.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
very
That's one of the best mixing tricks out there, to
right.
take what
Right.
you have and play it to someone else. You're immediately going to hear it differently, because you're like,
Yeah,
oh, that
yeah.
thing pops out and that annoys me and that doesn't quite work. And you should write all of
Right.
those things down in, chronologically as they come across. And then
Yeah.
that's the list of things you need to fix in the mix. So that's one of the best mixing tools that you have.
Yeah, coming back to like on this point of mixing tricks and whatever, like these kind of tricks. I think another thing is to identify what is the weakest part of your track. This is something that I have, like, over the years. This is something that I've noticed is noticed myself doing. Identify the part of the track that is weak and strengthen that. Like if you feel that a section of the track is not working, there's no movement there, or maybe it's not transitioning well, just focus on that while you're listening to it. You don't have to listen to the whole track, but you can kind of modularize it, and you can be like, the bass doesn't work here, and just try out different things. I think that's a neat trick as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's like, sometimes you need the section before it to, contextualize what's happening. It's pretty common that you have like a verse or something that you have like an intro. It's the right thing, and then you have like a bridge and chorus maybe, or whatever the structure is. But like there's something sometimes about, for me, it's commonly verses that are sort of out of place, and sometimes you just need to tear it all down and start with something new.
Yeah.
But it's like
I've done that a lot.
going from that intro to that verse and kind of focusing on, what is the energy that I want to capture here.
Right. And tearing it down doesn't have to be as painful. It's not necessarily as painful as you might think, because sometimes if you've been working on it for so long and you start fresh, you may make more progress with a fresh track than you will just fighting this out when you're kind of being pulled back and going back to the same ideas. I've done that a lot. I've done that with a lot of Isaac tracks as well, like the Antibirth tracks.
Yeah, for sure. Something I really try and embrace really hard now, despite how much I've worked on something. Because to me, art and music especially, but art, it's very binary. Like either it's working or it's not. So sometimes you put hours into something and you work on it really hard, and some things about it are super, they may be commendable from a technical standpoint, or you might have something interesting there. But if I make the very sort of, if I press stop and play again from the start, if it just doesn't work, then no matter what I've put into it, I'll make the decision to ditch it, because music is, nobody really listens to music and thinks, oh, that's kind of good, or that kind of works. I mean, it's a very binary sort of a thing. Like either you're feeling it or you're not. So I just try and fully embrace that. And if something's not working, then I'll just find another solution, find another way, try something new, play with something new. And then it's like, it's that point where you stop playing that you really stop finding new interesting things. Sometimes you have a track for such a long time that you get stuck in your ways and you think, yeah, this is how the verse should be. But if you're not feeling it, then just look for another way. And I try and embrace that really sort of hardcore right now, because especially when you have skill. If you're skilled as a musician, as a composer, then there's a bunch of things you can do, and there are going to be many commendable things about the things you did from a technical standpoint, or even at an idea level. But even that's very different from something feeling right. So
Right.
even as like a more experienced composer, you can still find yourself sort of lulling yourself into this false sense of accomplishment and comfort, because you can do things that are sort of impressive and commendable, but if the feeling isn't there, then you're not touching on something deeper.
Right. Yeah.
So if I go back to your sort of background, did you grow up in like a creative or musical environment, or what was your upbringing like from that perspective?
Not really. Like neither of my parents were in like the arts specifically, but I think they had like creative streaks, and they were just generally very free, like kind of open parents who let me do what I wanted. So when I wanted a keyboard, like when I wanted a Casio keyboard, they got it for me, even though it was quite an expensive thing to buy for an Indian family at that time. While I was growing up, they got it for me, and they encouraged me to play it. And even through the whole process of growing up, so I studied to be an engineer. Like I am genuinely interested in computers. I was into programming and stuff like that. And then I joined the engineering. I studied to be an engineering. I studied to be an engineer in college, and I didn't like the way that it was being treated. Like programming, like you said, is an art as well, right? But it felt like it was being treated more like something that you do for a job. Like the aim of this is not to grow as a person, or to understand how these systems work and to make them work the way that you want them to, which is the fun part for me. But rather, like, you learn this library or you learn this skill set so that you can be more employable. So while I was in college, I kind of worked at another studio part-time. I started doing that, and they supported me. They were like, yeah, you do whatever, as long as you're happy and you don't like completely destroy yourself, it's fine. So I think that was a big part of like, it let me explore a little more freely. Like, it didn't make me feel like I had to do something.
Yeah, so that was that, like you said, programming based, like computer programming, or?
Yeah, computer programming. Yeah. I taught myself programming. Like, I had been, like, the same time I got into what do you call it, into music. I think a year after that, I got into programming as well. I started with BASIC, and after like a couple of, no, not a couple, a little more, like maybe while I was 13, 14, I finally got an IBM PC. So I started messing around with C and Linux and those kind of things. And at the same time, I got into programming with a tracker. You know what music trackers are? Like Impulse Tracker and Mod Plus Tracker, Scream Tracker. Have you heard of those?
Yeah, but not. I haven't worked with them at all.
So in a way, they're kind of similar to programming, where you're writing the music with instructions. So rather than playing it real time, you can mention that you can have a bunch of samples, and then you can say that on channel 1, play this sample at this time, at this volume, and put this effect at this pan, and bend it to this note. So it's literally like a programming language. And that was how I got into computer music for the first time. So there was an intersection for me in terms of music and like computers and stuff. And then I got into MIDI with Cakewalk Pro Audio, and then finally got into Cubase, because I told you I worked at a studio. So they used to use Cubase, and that's how I started using Steinberg stuff.
Yeah. So you said you got your first keyboard. You were, did you say 5 years old?
Yeah.
Did you?
1989.
Nice. So that was the year I was born. so
Right.
so did you just have this kind of innate desire to play music? Was it like always there, or I get the impression it was something you initiated, something you said, hey, I wanna play the piano.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's difficult now to look back and try to introspect because I was like a 5-year-old idiot kid. But I think that it was just like it was fascinating. It felt fascinating to be able to create things, to make, to be able to. I think that's what, like you said, you define an artist, or if you want to give a definition to an artist, it's that thing to create stuff. That is the satisfying part. And to see all these, like even right now, like mixers and synthesizers, they excite me because you see so many buttons and so many controls. And buttons are so exciting because what does this button do? What does this lever do? What does this knob do? And it's that thing where you feel that it's feeding back against you. When you turn this, you'll do this, and then you can master it and get better at things. So that was the reason that I asked for a keyboard. And then I just was, like you said, you play with it. You play with it. You don't know what you're doing initially. Maybe you're just imitating someone doing something. I remember getting a guitar in my hand for the first time, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I just imitated someone playing it, just strumming it, pretending that I'm like, giving a show or whatever. And there is a part of like how mirror neurons work. That is a part of how humans learn. We learn by imitating first. So if someone is trying to learn for the first time, there's nothing wrong with just imitating. It doesn't mean that you're a worse artist. Don't pretend that this is something of yours. That's different from plagiarism, of course. But if you're imitating, that's what we all do. We take things from around, and we first learn to do it the way that we have seen it done, and we internalize it, and then we break it apart inside us. There are different stages of that journey. As you get more realized and more advanced in your process, it improves. But initially, like, if you don't know what you're doing, just like do stuff and keep doing it. And the more you do it, the more you'll see yourself breaking out of those roles. And I felt like as a kid that was all I did. And to this day, I don't feel particularly interested in getting formal lessons, because I feel that part of my music is because I've learned it in my way. That's part of my language or my grammar. And if I get it from outside, then that's going to pollute it a bit.
Yeah, and also I think for an artist, there's something about like you want to learn your own way. You want to find your own way there, and I've taken a bunch of different instrument lessons, mainly drums and a bit of singing, but it never ever resonated with me. Like the things where I've actually learned stuff the most is, like you said, imitation. So I would take a CD player, because that's what we had back then, and I would put headbuds on, and then put noise protection, on top of that, and then I would play drums. I would play the song with that music, and that would teach me a lot more than I ever could learn at a lesson. And I was never interested. I was never interested in just copying what already existed. I wanted to try and create at least something of my own. So that's also one of the things I emphasize for people is, if they feel that way, then I think there's a high chance that they themselves might be an artist. Of course, there's a difference between just being lazy and not wanting to learn and just being like an asshole, versus feeling like I should be doing something else. Like, I want to create my own things. I'm not interested in, playing blues and jazz standards. It's not my thing. So that's one of the things, like you want to keep an eye on that. If you find yourself constantly just wanting to do your own thing, then it's pretty likely you're probably artistically inclined.
Right.
So what was the next step from the keyboard? How did that how did your musical journey, so to speak, progress from there?
Yeah, like I said, it was from the keyboard. It was about computer music. I think was my next step. Like, I played the keyboard for a really long time. So it went from one keyboard, like a simple kind of. There's a Casio PT89. I don't know if there are any gear geeks, but first keyboard was a Casio PT89. Then it was a tiny like Casio SA21, and then I got this Yamaha PSS thingy, like one of these Portasound things, which had an FM synthesizer. Are you into like synthesis?
Yeah, a bit. I don't get hyper technical, but I know
Okay.
I know enough to be able to tweak things. We had to study synthesis at university, and that was actually pretty interesting to me. But I would never. I mean, it's still so secondary to writing music that I just want to know enough to know, like, okay, if I'm dealing with a subtractive synthesizer, for example, if I need to tweak things, then I'll know what I need to do. So, but you know, as you know, you can take these things to such a high technical, level.
Oh yeah.
I would not claim to, know anything past
And
the basics.
It's fun in terms of sound design. So that's again something that I feel over time I've become more attuned to. Like, it's not just about the music, but sometimes subtleties and sounds make a really big difference. And that's where synthesis gets very interesting, because you can make sounds that you've never heard before. And you see that evolve a lot. Like, even if you look at movie soundtracks, it used to be the orchestra first. It was just strings and your horns and your regular thing. But the next like big change happened with a different kind of sound. It was when synthesizers came in with your I don't know what era it was, but with the Clockwork Orange. Who was it who made the music for the Clockwork Orange? Forgotten. But yeah, basically, like, there was a completely different sound, and it just changed the space that you were in as a viewer, because you're suddenly hearing something so different. And that happened again recently with the Inception brand, that sound, the wavetable thing, and that's become such a common thing now. And it's almost like it's like when you see car designs evolve over these, you can point at a car, you can see, okay, that's an 80s car, or this is a car from the 2000s, and you can do that with music as well. And I think that there's a lot to be explored in that, which sometimes, if you get stuck on the melodic part of it, just try playing around with the sound a bit. Just play, just mess around and see what comes out of it, and you may get a jump start.
No, absolutely. I mean, again, this is something I've been talking a lot about with pretty much all of the guests so far, because pretty much until my time, like when I started university, composition to me was basically purely the notes. Like, I had been recording music with my friends for quite a few years, but I wasn't really super into sound yet. And I also didn't understand sound much at all. We just thought, we had these good tracks, and we would work on sounds and try and make them work. But I didn't really understand how deep and complex that world was. Like, the understanding was super superficial. And then during that university time, I was like, okay, I think I have half decent music in terms of purely the composition, the notes in a sort of abstracted form. I think they're half decent, but why does everything sound like shit? And how do I make it sound good? And I started to realize that, all right, okay, so I might have a pretty decent piece of music, but the audio that's coming out of the speakers sounds really bad. And that's why a lot of people struggle to kind of connect with the music. They don't have access to the composition because the sound of it is so lackluster. Like, it doesn't really reflect the thing that I'm trying to go for. And that kind of was an awakening for me to start, focusing on sound. And through that, I started to actually write music through the texture, the sound profile of it. The texture of the sound became a compositional element to me. Because before I thought, here's the composition in theory, like the abstracted notes in the abstracted form, and then you sort of glue certain sounds on top of those things, and that's the piece of music. Whereas now I see the sound of it kind of as an inseparable part of the note itself. And this is why today I largely write music starting with sounds. I let them inspire me, and then I sort of go at it from a different perspective. I would love to hear your thoughts on that and your process, if you sort of relate to that in any sort of way.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's again something that I'm not really. I can't say that I've mastered. I don't think anyone really reaches a state where you're like, I know everything about sound design or how to make a track interesting. Because if you do, then what's the fun in it? The whole point of it is that as you discover it, it's exciting. But like you said, like sometimes you have the track, you have in the process of learning to make music, you'll be like, okay, I want to make a string melody similar to something that I've heard in a movie soundtrack. And then you do it with your MIDI strings, and it doesn't sound like quite as good, obviously, because no matter how good your libraries are, it's not going to sound as good as a Hollywood orchestra. But sometimes in that desperation to make something interesting out of it, like if you just substitute it with something slightly different, like even if you downgrade the sound from an aesthetic or from a technological point of view, like you downgrade it from Hollywood strings to like 8-bit strings, it suddenly becomes more interesting. So that space, being able to explore that space, I think it's again one of those tricks that I use when something is not working. If something is just not working for me, I just try all sorts of sounds that induce a different kind of vibe or feeling. Like I really like the Mellotron strings, for example. It's so lo-fi, but it takes me back to that time where I used to like try to go to sleep listening to Beatles music. They used to use a lot of the Mellotron strings, and that feels cozy to me. And if it feels cozy to me, it probably feels cozy to a bunch of other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is like, I review a lot of sample libraries and virtual instruments on my YouTube. And so people ask me quite often for recommendations of what to buy. And it can be super difficult to give recommendations because, like you said, I can have a top tier string library, like the best of the best, but they all have their own sound. There is no such thing as one sample library of a certain style to rule them all, because they're like, I can't tell you buy this string sample library and it's going to cover all the use cases that you'll need, because there's a 1,000 ways and even more to record a string section. First of all, they're different sizes, etc. But just the players, the textures, they want to go for the expressions, they want to go for the recording technology, the space. Yeah, it's just it's a completely different thing. So I what I try and do is pinpoint, like, what is the sound that you're after? Is there a composer that you love? Is there a movie soundtrack that you really love and you want to go for that sound? That's what I try and chase, because then I can tell them what library kind of gets them closest to that sound. But I have a ton of libraries, and they all are going to achieve different things from different perspectives. So it's it's very specific to the sound. And I think this is something that people, the average person, doesn't realize at all. I mean, how could they? But I mean, barely a lot of musicians understand this. So, yeah, sound is endless.
And I think that there's also like, when you're talking about people asking you for recommendations for libraries, there's also there's a tendency that we have that we want the best, like we want the best tool, or we want the best. What's the best DAW to work in? What's the best synthesizer to buy? You don't have a best. There's no objective best in a lot of this. And there is a bit of laziness in that kind of thinking, because it's like, tell me this one plugin that's going to make my music sound polished. But it's not about the plugin itself. Like sometimes it's just knowing how to use it, right? And there is this like, and I'm guilty of it as well. There is this tendency to be like, okay, if I buy this plugin and if I use it, if I get Ozone and if I start using it, my masters are going to sound amazing. Or if I get the soft tube VCA compressors or whatever, my mixes are suddenly going to sound tight and amazing. But like I've been through that phase, and I think I've come out of it, so I can say it that like once you forget about all that and just like try to understand what's happening on a more basic level, then it's if you're able to listen to the sound rather than to try to focus on the product, you know what I'm saying? I try to get the best out of it. If you're just able to listen to the sound, then you can make bigger leaps. You can level yourself up, basically. Rather than level up your machine or your collection of things, you can level yourself up if you're just able to listen and see what is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And one like the thing is that in terms of the, how should I put this? The price tag on a piece of musical equipment has nothing to do with the output of a piece of art, and if it does, like the price tag has nothing to do with it. There are many examples of like very cheap pieces of music tech that have been used on an iconic album. And so it's like you said, a lot of people, me including. And like you said, I'm hoping that I'm on the other side of that. But a lot of people will find themselves in the hole of thinking, once I have this mastering plugin or this mixing plugin or this, etc., whatever it is, that my mixes are finally going to sound great and I'm going to get to that next level. And that's not to say the pieces of tech don't have a place, but they are only tools. They will only do a certain step in a certain way. And great if you have the technological understanding of how to utilize that, but there's no magical pill, like you said. They're only tools that do certain tasks. And the other thing is there is no tool that is going to do a certain task in every single place in the same way, like because music it's entirely relative to what is happening in the actual audio waveform. Like you can treat audio to sort of get into a similar place where you can then deploy those typical strategies that you might have for, let's say, a compressor. But it's still, audio is so complex that it's all about listening to what's coming out of the speakers and understanding what it needs to artistically reflect what you're after. And there is no situation where things are going to be the same way in every situation and instance that you're confronting. I don't know if I said that very clearly. I don't feel like I did, but but this sort of
I get the gist of it.
It's like an absolute like you think everything is sort of fixed, but music is very it's like a puzzle that you're trying to piece together to form this big picture, but every piece affects everything else there. If you tweak the perception of one thing over here, that's going to change how you feel about the other thing over here. So it's very tough to look for those solutions that always fixed everything in all different scenarios.
Yeah. Something that you were saying, I had a thought about what you were saying. Can't remember it now.
Maybe it will come to you.
Yeah. So when you were talking about how like different ways of recording in different spaces and all that kind of stuff, I believe that we are at a time where music is accessible to the ability to make music is accessible to so many people. It's like this whole democratization of means, right? Everyone can buy a really good quality microphone or an audio interface. Everyone can get a DAW that works as well as something that, like, 30 years, 40 years back, people in studios would not have had access to this amount of editing or this amount of signal processing. Everyone has access to it. And the problem now is almost a problem of being overwhelmed. It's a problem of plenty. So it's like when people are just jumping into it, someone wants to start making music right now, it's very difficult to find a straight path. And that's why that tendency to ask for what is the best. Let me start with the best. It's a kind of a what do you say? It's an approach problem. If you're able to tell people to approach it from a different angle, don't worry about being overwhelmed. Just worry about having fun. Like if you get that approach in, I think that's a good kind of musical education that you can give.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you said, it's kind of like missing the point, and it's very understandable that people think, well, I'll just get the best, and then I'll figure out the rest of it. But it kind of misses the point of what is the question? Like, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to What do you want to create? What do you want to do? And then from that perspective, it's far easier to say, okay, maybe you should look at this library or this instrument because that actually does the sound that you like. And then, like you said, it's far easier to have fun with that and play with that from that position rather than look for. It's kind of like the same mentality of like you said. It's like I'm just gonna buy this one last plugin and it's gonna make my mixes amazing. And then I don't have to worry about it.
And that's how the marketing is a lot of the time. It's like you buy this subscription or you buy this plugin or you use this site and you'll know the tricks that you need to make a whatever a hit or whatever.
Yeah, and it's the thing that people want to believe. That's why it's so easy to market.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is the missing link for the loudness of my track or the dynamics or whatever else. And it's even with the libraries, it's kind of like like no library is gonna write music for you. I mean, there might be some AI stuff.
I mean, we're at the point where there are plugins that promise to do that. But
but we could even, like, you can debate again whether it's whether they align with what you actually want to achieve. But
for sure.
and again, this is no statement against AI tools, etc. But it's again, a lot of people do have this idea. Okay, I'll get this library, and then I'll finally make the album that will break or sound super professional and amazing. And there's no library that's just automatically going to do that. You're going to have some understanding of how to write and arrange music and how to put things together. At the very least, you have to have some sense of how to piece things together in a sensible way. There's no string library that you can just take and then press whatever or play whatever and it's going to sound amazing and you're going to be like, wow, that's such a realistic string sample library. That just doesn't exist.
True.
So you said you started to work at a studio at some point. So you got into the tracker stuff, and then from there you went into kind of MIDI sequencing. What was your progression like from there?
So after the sequencing bit, which I was doing at home, when I joined the studio, I started using Cubase. So
how old were you at that point?
I think I was maybe 16, a little bit older when I started working in the studio. Um, it was, I think it was very natural. So I got into the whole recording bit, which was new to me, to be able to record live instruments and vocalists, and the editing. I think editing was a new aspect of the whole thing, because we used to do a lot of radio jingles. At that time, radio was big, so we had to fit things into a certain time. So to be able to write music or to edit a conversation to fit into that time was a skill that I learned, which is still useful. For example, I just got a mail recently about how I made the cinematic, the intro cinematic to Isaac. I had scored the music for that, and that was very natural for me because I've been doing scoring. Like I've been scoring to videos and I've been scoring for commercials for a long time now. But I can imagine how it is if you're someone who's new to it. How do you sync music to video? So those kind of skills, I think I picked up over there. And yeah, some other secondary things like dealing with clients and stuff like that, which I think in any profession, it's something that you have to learn.
So you were like a studio assistant at that point?
Yes, I would be an arranger. I was an arranger and a studio assistant.
Yeah. So up until that point, if you were arranging stuff, you obviously had, compositional or arrangement sort of music knowledge and skills. How did you just do that by ear, or have you had any sort of formal training at some point, or?
No, it was all by ear. It was all stuff that I picked up, and some of the stuff I kind of learned on the job.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when you're put into an uncomfortable situation or a situation where you're not able to, like you're kind of outside your comfort zone, you can surprise yourself, I feel. And that's where you kind of develop your own style to break through your limitations.
And that was like a commercial recording studio.
Yeah.
And how long did you work there?
I was there for quite a while, man. I think I'm really bad with years and numbers and ages.
No, just in general, just to give people an idea of like the timeline of. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I was just trying to
precise.
Yeah, I have like literally no idea. I have to count the years and try to like find landmarks in my life to get an idea. I think I was there for maybe 6 years, 2 years part time, and then I was there probably 4 years after that, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, let's say 4 to 6 years I was there, and it got a little bit. Honestly, it got a little bit boring because I wasn't able to do as much creative work as I wanted to. I wasn't able to. There's constantly this pressure about pleasing the client. Like you have to do it this way. You need to stick to these formulae because they work, which was very soul sucking. So I just quit. And in the meantime, I was doing freelance graphic design on one of these sites. So I just continued doing that. And then while I was in this limbo period, an old client of mine, an old client at the studio that I had worked with, he got in touch asking if I'd be interested in doing a track for one of his like corporate videos. And that's how I kind of got back into the music thing. So then it was a journey for me because I had to figure out the whole financial aspect of it. So this is something that if people are trying to make money off of this as a career, and especially artistic types, we tend to be like, money is not important. Maybe it's all about the art. But then when you're doing it for a living and you have to balance those aspects of it, that can be a steep learning curve for someone who's a little bit naive. So that I went through that whole phase. Like the first project I did, I ended up spending more on session artists than I actually made. I made a loss. I literally was at a loss. So yeah, that was, I think that's an important journey that someone who's getting into this for professional reasons they need to be clear about. You have to separate the money aspect from the creative aspect. Doesn't mean you have to be a dick about it, but you have to be clear. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you? Is there something else, sort of as a key lesson that you learned on the financial front? Any sort of tips or tricks beyond, or sort of mindsets that would help someone make the right decisions when it comes to either getting money or using money?
So I think a couple of things. One is this is something that the guy at the studio used to say, which I think is a very nice benchmark to work with, which is, if you're working on a project, either the person has to be good, the project has to be good, or the money has to be good. So either the project is interesting for you on a creative level, or the person that you're working with, you really like that person, respect that person, or whatever. Or even if it is for the money, be clear that you're doing it just for the money. And
Do you mean
to be able to
yourself?
admit that, clear to yourself, yeah. Don't lie and try to say that it's I'm doing it for something else or whatever. So to be able to do that for me helped me. Like I said, like there's the craft and there's the art. So being in that space and doing work for the money with things I didn't understand it, I think helped my craft. It helped me improve very like technical things in my music, or being able to turn around quickly, or being able to come up with ideas quickly, those kind of things. That is one thing with respect to money. And the other thing, I think, which is such like a philosophical question, is how do you value yourself as an artist? And it's completely arbitrary. Like, why is one actor worth 10 million and why is another actor like 500 worth like $500? The whole thing is just about how much people are willing to spend on that it's a man-made, it's a very manufactured cost, right? And you, like, at least for me, I just have I used to have a lot of difficulty in terms of like finding out how much to charge for a project. But I think you have to like look at like boring stuff, which is not really related to the creative aspect of the work, but you have to look at boring stuff like what kind of value do you bring to a client? Like if you're doing it for an ad, for a commercial, how much money is the client going to make? If it's a television ad, it's going to make more money. If it's on like cable TV or whatever, if it's on just on radio, it's not going to be as effective for them. If it's an internet ad, like especially in the early days, an internet ad was considered a rung below. So those aspects you do have to face. You can't just be like whatever, like the universe will give me what I'm worth. You have to kind of define your worth for yourself, and you have to be honest about it. Maybe you have to value yourself highly at some point. Like if you feel that you're getting too much work and you can't do it, then maybe you do have to increase it. And maybe if you're not getting enough work, maybe you have to look at it and see that, and ask yourself why you're not getting work. Like what value am I not delivering enough value to a client? Like, am I not adding anything to them? Why are they going to someone else? So yeah, those kind of uncomfortable questions you kind of have to face.
Is there like a central thing when it comes to the value proposition? What is let's say, beyond the quality of your art, the quality of your work, otherwise, is there a single thing that you would point out as being something that you should focus on in terms of bettering the value proposition for the client?
I think being able to communicate and to understand what a non-creative person is trying to say. Like sometimes they don't have the language to say the things that they want to say. So being able to cut through the clutter and just like, I sound like such an MBA now, but just getting to the heart of what the client is trying to say can can be more important oftentimes than your actual creative skill. And sometimes when a client gives references, they may give you a reference of a track, but that's not really what they're after. Sometimes you just have to trust your gut and be like, you know what, this works with this film or this visual. And when you give it to them, they may be like, you know what, I didn't expect this, but it works awesome. So having a little bit of confidence in your own taste as you evolve as a musician and as you evolve as an artist, uh, you have to, yeah, you have to do a bit of mind reading and trust your take on what they're saying. Like, don't just follow what the client is saying unless it works for you, unless it looks good for you.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the tricky things. Like, I think what again, one of the things that artists should be able to do is see things also through the eyes of other people. Like, if there's something you see that speaks to you, then you're probably tapping into something that someone else also
Yeah,
can see.
yeah.
But
It could be something that they've not even imagined, and then you're gonna just create something that's so fresh and so interesting that it's gonna capture the imagination of so many people.
yeah, absolutely. Are you? Let's say you're in a situation where you wrote something and you were sort of really convinced that it's the right thing to do, it's interesting, it's cool, and then you take it to the client and it's not quite clicking with them. How
Right.
how would you typically approach that situation? Like, would you try again, based on their feedback, or even if, let's say, the feedback is kind of minimal, do you just sort of listen
Right.
to your gut again and try and sort of maybe see what they're feeling, see what they're responding to, and then try again? And if is there a point where you just sort of give up, or just say, okay, this is like it? What makes you realize, okay, we've hit the point where it's not worth it for me to try and come up with something new and different?
Oh, that does happen a lot. I think usually, um, I think it's just by feel. Um, Usually that happens. I think when you have a long time, ironically, when you have a long time span for the project, people get into this thing where, like, just like how you can overspend your attention and time on a track when you're doing it for yourself without a client, when you're doing it with a client, if you have a long period of time over which that project is going on, they can spend a lot of time just messing with stuff just because there's time. Shall we try this? Shall we do that? And I think beyond a certain point over there, you just have to, like, just do it. Like, whatever they're asking for, just do it, and, like, tell them that it doesn't work. But if this is what you want, you want. And after working for such a long time, you kind of start finding that there are clients and there are people that you work with that you like working with, that you're on the same wavelength with. You want to meet people like that, right? And then you start weeding out your clients, basically. You don't want to work with people who are going to make life miserable for you.
Yeah, that's the thing, because there can be a lot of opportunities out there that you think or would be very beneficial to you, and you sort of try and cling on to them. But if could be a number of things, could be a lack of chemistry or lack of shared vision, but it can be certainly very tough to let go of that opportunity, because a lot of good things could come along with it. But on the other hand, it's really tough. Like, for me, at one point when I started to, like, in the very beginning, when I thought, okay, what am I going to try and actually do with this music thing and try and make some money with it, I thought about library music. So yeah, like, as you know, just making music in certain styles, and either having my own library or then selling it to someone else. And I literally sat down And I did it for about maybe half an hour, and I just said like, wow, I'm never going to do this again. Like this is not
Right.
why I write music at all. This is not what
Right.
it's about. Like if it's about just getting by, then I'd rather do something else. Because if I'm
Right.
taking music, which is the thing that I love, just about the most, that's really at the top of experiences in life. But now I'm kind of mutilating it. I'm kind of pulling the rug from under its feet by doing this completely
Right.
trivial thing that a lot of other people could be doing. I then and there I realized like, okay, this is not going to be it. I need to write music from my heart and write music that I actually want to write. Otherwise, I'd rather just do something else.
Yeah, and that's a very valid, like logical thing. Like if you're doing that just for a living, then and if it bothers you so much, and maybe there are people that it doesn't bother that much, and that's awesome. But if it does bother you so much, then it's not worth like making yourself so miserable for.
Yeah, and it kind of spoils the thing that you love. So
Yeah.
it's even worse than one might think.
Yeah.
So did you? Is that when you started your own company, and have you been doing that ever since, or were there some sort of steps in between?
No. So yeah, like when I the client, I told you there was a client who got in touch and asked if I want to make music for a corporate film. I did it, and then I was referred to more people through him, and I think I'm a little bit lucky that I don't like marketing myself. Like I don't like going up to people and saying that I'm available and this is my work. So I got references through this person, and it's just kind of self-sustained, I guess. So I don't know again whether I'm lucky. I'd like to believe that it's because I do decent work, so people find that value and they want to come back or they want to give my reference to other people. But yeah, I don't know. It gets a little uncomfortable, like almost like I'm being egoistic to think that way. So it's fine.
No, it doesn't sound like that at all to me. I'm actually interested in hearing, because this tends to be kind of typical for sort of creatives to not be very interested in the marketing side of things, and
Right.
that what you described is kind of common, at least
Right.
from my experience. From that perspective, what are some of maybe the best marketing lessons that you've learned? And this could be, wherever you want to take it. I don't mean it needs to be like a typical marketing lesson thing, but
Yeah, like networking. Yeah.
it could be.
So that. Yeah, so that like I said, if someone like me can kind of have work, have people market me for myself, then I think anyone can. I think the basic principle is if there's a need, it's basically an economy, right? Like people want music either as a listener, like people want to feel things and people want to be entertained, and life is fucked up and boring and everyone just wants to escape and just enjoy their life. So they want to listen to things that make them feel nice. So there's one demand over there. And the other thing is like as a corporate thing, like people want to have a reliable or predictable source of music for their projects or for their products or whatever. So if you can identify what the need is, and if you can be clear about it, then you don't need marketing, I believe. You don't need to market yourself because your work speaks for itself. I mean, this is like, people will seek it out. Like everyone is desperate. Like, why do we sit down and watch shows, or why do we sit down and play games? Because we want to be entertained. So if you can make something that does stimulate people's imagination or make them feel excited for life, then I believe, and it's worked for me so far, and of course, it's only a sample size of one, but I believe that you will find a self-sustaining route to, to marketing yourself.
Have you seen the the industry or the economy in the space that you're in? Have you seen that change since these many of these companies came out that basically offer like a very large library of music to be at your disposal at a very low monthly price? Like, do you work at such sort of high extreme range that those licenses don't really cover what those clients need? Or have you found that these, because a lot of the music on these services is actually quite good quality.
Yeah.
So have you, what have been your observations regarding that? Or is it different?
So this is also related. So this is also, I think it's kind of homogenized right now across the world. People, because everyone works on the internet and everyone like delivers stuff on WhatsApp these days. But I think there's a parallel to this and AI, and this is a conversation that I had recently with someone. So for me, okay, on a personal side, there are two aspects to it. One is the work and in the financial like distress that something like this can cause, and the other is the whole creative aspect of it. The creative aspect for me is like it's not interesting for me to take stock music or to take AI generated music because it's not fun for me. It's fun to play around with it, but not as something that I would want to release or whatever. It's fun because it's a piece of technology that's interesting. But the other thing of it where it causes me a loss of business, again, this is a sample size of only me, but I believe that it's a tool like any other. So when you say that stock music is something that is accessible to companies, I have recommended people when they've come to me and said that there's a project and we don't have too much of a budget, we don't have too much of time and all that. Like, why don't you use this? I've sent them links to Premium Beat and whatever stuff and say that just use these tracks, dude. This is what you want. And if it works for them, awesome. But sometimes it doesn't work. They want to customize it. They want to add like layers or stuff. And I can do that for you. Like I can do that for you. It's not going to take me too much time. I can charge you less than I would for composing like a fresh track, or I can edit it more neatly. I can mix it for you. So I'm okay with that. Like it doesn't really bother me. And it's honestly not that distressing for me to do it because like you said, some of these tracks are really cool and to listen to it and to edit it and to play with the stems and all is quite fun. And if I'm being paid for it, why should I why should I have a problem? And to me, I think AI is a similar kind of conundrum, right? It's a tool. And if it's a tool that you can harness as a music creator, not as something that'll create your whole track for you, but sometimes if you're stuck for like an idea or whatever, you're stuck with a preset on a synthesizer, you just go through a bunch of them and you see like, okay, this one works. How is that different from asking an AI to generate a preset for you? How is that different from using a sample? Like if you're out of ideas and you just want to find something interesting to fill in a beat, you just go through Splice and play different samples and be like, this one adds something completely different to my track. And I think it's the same space for me, philosophically. I don't have a problem with it. And it's not hurt me financially, like in terms of work as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a super interesting idea or conversation in terms of like what is music composition, because like you said, we have so many great tools that do things at such an incredible level. Like for example, many sample libraries, they do have presets in there that are super polished, ready to go. Very professional sounding, but like I said, they alone are not a piece of music. Like you can't just sort of glue some of those things together and expect it to, be jaw-dropping in some way. And so, and this will only get, more complex as these tools get better and better. But I don't think like composition is basically that you have a vision of something. There's a vision you want to achieve, and that vision has a meaning. it has purpose, it has something that it wants to achieve, and that's basically what you're then chasing as a composer. I'm increasingly, I don't feel like I really create anything. This is probably pretty controversial in terms of, talking with composers or musicians, but
no, but I know what you're saying. It's almost like I mean, it sounds almost like philosophical, like divine or whatever, but you're a vessel for an idea that kind of goes through you, right? Like when you're in that state.
yeah, and it's, I don't know.
Like the idea is,
Go ahead.
the idea is something that that has filtered through you. You've heard something or you felt something and you're just trying to capture that in your own way, in your own. And the more different, the more imperfect your capture is, the more interesting it actually becomes. If you can capture it exactly as it was, there's no point to it. You're just copying it. But that imperfection in you is what is making it interesting.
Yeah. I commonly say that we don't really create anything. It's super rare for somebody to create something very unique from, like, that's a really poor way of trying to say it. Like if we think about like a groundbreaking artist like a Beatles or like a, I don't know, Jimi Hendrix, something like that was very, very different from, and obviously these bands also had very, strong inspiration from different groups that a lot of people haven't heard of. So this is by no means like they didn't poof out of nothing. Like if you listen to Paul McCartney interviews, for example, he will give very specific examples of the bands or the songs that inspired certain things. So again, this is they don't come from nothing, but what we can do in a unique way is take all of these different pieces and combine them into something, like you said, like we become this funnel, and then you take all of this stuff and you put it into one focus point, and through your filtering, it becomes something unique. So the where we can be creative is how we combine different things into a new form. And I'm actually, obviously, I don't know how much you know about Lord of the Rings, but and obviously Tolkien was Christian, but in the Lord of the Rings world, only the Eru Iluvatar, the god in that world, can create things, and then you have this Dark Lord, the Melkor, who can only basically, he can't create anything of his own, but he can take things and mutate them or mutilate them or somehow tweak, but he wants to desperately, to my understanding, create things, but he can't. And I think that might actually be true. Like I'm not convinced that we actually create anything. I think there is the stuff that is in the universe, and we can observe it. Hopefully we're not attempting to be a Dark Lord and twist it into a kind of a horrible, monstrous shape, but I think we can change and assemble things into a good form as well. And I'm beginning to feel like that probably is true.
So like I kind of agree, but partially I feel that it's like the cause and effect is reversed, because so just to get into music itself, as like why does it comfort us or why does it excite us? Part of it is familiarity, part of it is newness. It's almost like a punchline. You hear something that you're expecting to go in one direction, but if it's just the same, then it's going to be like terrible stock music. But if it goes in a different way, that's when you get excited. So that balance of familiarity and something new is what makes it exciting. You can create something completely original, but it's going to sound like noise. It's absolutely going to sound like noise. Like if you play a hip hop track a hit hip hop track from today, if you play it to someone who was alive 200 years back, it's going to sound like noise or whatever, like metal or anything, because they don't have that context of the familiar. So I do believe that you can create something that's completely original, but it's not, it's going to be madness. And ultimately, it's that what is sanity and what is insanity. There's no clear line demarcating sanity, right? It's not like this person is sane because so and so reason. It's just that this is the threshold that we've commonly agreed upon as a society. We say that this is sane and this is insane. This behavior is insane. But if you just take one sane person, put that person completely in isolation, you can't identify what it is that is sane about that person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you happen to be a Lovecraft fan by any chance?
No, I'm not.
No.
Okay. I haven't read so much of this. I've played a few games inspired by Lovecraft stuff, but I haven't really gotten into that.
No, I think that's exactly.
But yeah, he did have a lot of elements of insanity and mental illness in his stories, right?
Yeah, and he I don't know if he introduced it, but he certainly talks about the concept of like cosmic horror, which is,
right.
Basically, well, I won't attempt to explain it, but it's like you said, it's some.
No, please do. I'm super interested.
Well, I mean, to me, what speaks to me about it is that we're not built or capable of seeing things in their true actual form. So they play a lot with these sanity, insanity concepts. But if you were, basically the principle is that if you were to actually be exposed to the true extent of reality, like how things actually are, then you would go insane, basically. And that's
I think
in that world, if you're exposed to some of the horrors, then it's. I like that it's not about seeing a horrible monster, although like Lovecraftian stuff is very commonly taken to that direction. It's like, oh, there's a spooky monster and somebody loses their mind because they're so, it's a horrible monster. But it's really more about like the true state of reality is so incomprehensibly strange and weird to us, like the typical human state, that if you were to be exposed to it, you would just lose your mind. Like you said, there is.
I think that's categorically true, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me,
that is absolutely true, because we are. We are just monkeys that have evolved to be able to do this stuff, and then we're learning that the universe is like is massive, and like we are like literally nothing in it, and we are not. Our brains are not capable of processing that size of information. Like even on a very physics sense, like forget about the philosophical sense, we don't understand what a light year is. We can't visualize it. We count it in terms of big numbers and stuff, and that does have very real effects in terms of like depression and mental illness and stuff. Like when people are confronted, like more and more people, as they move away from religion and are getting into like seeing the world as a universe and defined by these new contexts, they're like, then what's the purpose of life? Like we can't process it, and that's why we seek other things. And part of that process, so I think again going back to the whole art thing, we have different ways of making sense of the universe. One is religion, is one path. I'm an atheist myself, but there is a path that many people choose to understand the world and to contextualize themselves in the world. Another is science, and another is art. And art is, I think, it's like the most interesting for sure for me, because it has all these aspects. You have the science bit of it, you have the logic bit of it, and you can explore science through art, you can explore religion through art, you can explore everything through art. It's so flexible.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like I think the more we're learning about the true state of reality and the universe, it's getting stranger and stranger. I mean, just
it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, just the quantum aspect of it, which we're still like We don't know what the fuck that is, and
Yeah.
I mean, we know things about it, but I suspect like there's going to be, because a lot of people do treat science as if it's a religion, and
Right.
they're like, and I it's bottomlessly interesting and fascinating, and I want us to pursue that, and I want that to continue, and I want us to know as much as possible.
Right.
I don't think it will substitute certain things that we need to, like you said, we ask ourselves, like, what is the point of this in general? And certainly we ask, what is the point of this in relation to me?
And science can't answer that, right? Science just cannot give you an answer to that. That's something you have to define for yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of people are a bit confused about. Like, they think the finding of the answers is the same thing as the question, but it's there is no question. If you, I mean, yes, in science we have questions in terms of like a hypothesis, etc. But you know, it's like the what is it called? The book, the Douglas Adams.
Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah, exactly
The 42.
Yeah, the classic
42.
classic thing that the answer to everything is 42, but we don't know what the really. Well, that kind of points to the thing that that's the answer is not important, but the question is.
Yeah.
Well, what was I gonna say about the? Well, I remember I wanted to touch on, like, I agree what you say about, like, we can create things, but like unique things, but those unique things consist of pieces that already exist. So in that sense, that's what I meant by not creating unique things. And also I'm really, like, for me, creating music feels more and more each year, it feels more like a discovery rather than creation. Like, when I'm writing music and something really clicks and I sort of come alive and become really inspired, I don't feel like, ooh, it's me building or creating things. It's like I'm discovering a world. I'm like, oh, wow, it's like walking, you know, behind a mountain, and then you see this beautiful valley and you're like, holy shit, that's beautiful. That's how I feel. And that's also part of the reason why I'm not convinced that I even thinking of it as creativity, in the sense that I'm bringing something into existence out of nothing or very little, or that I'm you know, assembling blocks in a certain way. I can see the sense in that, but it's, you know, the experience feels more like a discovery. And I also like the idea of sort of, you know, the statue in the marble idea, you know, that you have this block of marble and, you know, you carve the statue out of it. Or, you know, it's like going to a desert and you dig the sand and you uncover this ancient city. That sort of feels more like what the process of music writing feels like to me. It's like, it's already there. I don't really feel like it's me that created that beautiful, you know, view or thing.
So something again. Sorry, because I think I'm playing while I'm listening to you. I kind of lose track. I had something that I wanted to say. Just give me a sec. Let me. Yeah. So when you said that it's like discovering and it's like walking behind a mountain and seeing that was a very visual thing that you said, and it just reminded me of sometimes when you're watching a movie or you're listening to a track, you can see the person who's created it do that, and that brings me a lot of joy. Like, some products are very opaque. You can see that it's created as a product, like a bunch of people have made something very polished and it's amazing. There are no flaws in it, but you can't see the people behind it. but especially in the indie scene, when it's a bunch of small people doing stuff, and you can see their thoughts behind it, you can see them having fun with it, and you can see their process of discovery coming through. That's very satisfying to me.
Yeah, for sure. There's that personal connection. You're actually, even if you haven't met the developer or the creator, you can, again, it goes back to the art thing. There's something more fundamental that you connect with, and it's so powerfully presented that it's sort of not something you can miss. You know, it's just an experience that forces you to respond to it. But yeah, I like the personal aspect of it as well. And there are a lot of, I remember when I was younger, and I would have a friend who, showed me a video of a video game, and it had, like, for the time, it had amazing graphics and all these like cool technical things. And I would just look at that and appreciate those things, but there was nothing that spoke to me at a deeper level. Like, there was nothing that really innately made me want to play it. Like, maybe it would be fun for about 10 minutes when you, like, get impressed by the great sound design and art and, the technical aspect of how the gameplay was implemented. But then it's like, this is not why I play games. So, and, on the other hand, you could be playing something that had kind of really bad graphics, but maybe it was done, like, the art style was done in a kind of bespoke, interesting way, and maybe the story was interesting, and it's probably very difficult to make it tangible in terms of what it is that achieves.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on.
It's like there's that saying, right? Like, it's like pornography. You know it when you see it. Like, what is the line defining art and pornography? It's the same thing with art in general. Like, it's just something that goes by feel.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also almost thinking about it is almost like it's defeating the point of it. I mean, I love these things as an intellectual exercise for sure, and I do think about them. But it's still a part of you is like, does it? It's so beautiful and pure in its form that you almost don't want to explain it. Yeah. But did you always sort of trying to tap into your thoughts on music in general? Was it something that did you consciously feel like this is something you want to do for a living, or that you want to do in life? Or was it sort of a thing that crept into your life slowly? Or, what was your relationship with music?
No, it just kind of happened. Like I said, it just happened to be something that I ended up doing. Like, I would have been really happy if I had like a computer programmer job or whatever, as long as it wasn't the boring stuff that I'd seen in college. But I think music worked out well for me. It let me do my own, like, be in my own space. And I never had a reason to get away from it. Like, I never had a reason to try anything else other than that one break where I was burnt out and I did the graphic design thing. There's just like a natural path, I think, that I followed. And then when I was getting burnt out again, the Antibirth thing happened, and that music, like, again, like, revitalized my music making itself. I forget about the whole thing about it, people liking it, but for me, I just enjoyed that process a lot. And since then, I've just been trying to keep my interest alive, I guess. Like, it changed my focus about what I should be, like, looking at. What is the goal? Give me a quest marker, basically.
Yeah. Is that something like, has it been easy for you to like stick close to music? And if so, what, is there like a mindset, a way of thinking about it that has helped you do that? Because I know a lot of I know a lot of artists who probably could have gone and still could go and do something with their sort of drive, but they, something made them give up. So thinking about it from that perspective, is there something that comes to mind in terms of like a mindset or something you did that helped you, stick to music?
Trying to think. No, I don't really think there's anything conscious. I think it's something that I would do anyway. Like, even if I didn't have anything else, like if I had no money, if I didn't have any monetary gain from doing this, or if I didn't have any social gain from doing it, I know that if I was super depressed and I had nothing to look forward to in life, I'll probably be sitting down with a keyboard or a guitar or something, and that's where I would go. That's my space.
Yeah. No, I relate to that a lot. And that's kind of like, again, seems to be a pretty common theme among people. It's almost something you can't, I think it's a two-part thing for me. I can't stay away from this for long, because otherwise I get mentally ill. Like, I legitimately become depressed. And it's like you said, if I get depressed, then there's one place where I'm going to come to, and it's going to be a keyboard, and I'm just going to start playing. Like, that's like, I have to do that. Otherwise I'll probably, like we talked about losing your mind. I legitimately think I probably would go crazy if I didn't have the ability to be creative. Like, again, it's like one of those physically painful things. It's not like being punched in the face, but it's, it hurts.
Yeah. Right. So it's not something that like you really think about. You don't worry about it, right? Do you worry about it? Like, if you've not made music for a while, so at least for me, it's like, yeah, it's fine. I've not done anything for a while. Like, the long periods of time when I don't listen to music at all. I just listen to podcasts. I love listening to podcasts. Like Radio Lab is one of my favorite stuff you should know and stuff like that. And I just listen to those. And in that context, sometimes I hear music. And that is the only music that I've heard over like months. But I don't worry about it. Like, I don't feel like I have to keep up with the latest trends in music, which I find like some people have that thing. Some producers, especially who do it for a living, they're like, oh shit, if I don't keep up with the latest, then I'm going to be left behind. So for me, that's freeing, right? Because I don't think like that. I don't have that stress.
Yeah, I don't have that either. And I'm pretty remarkably uninterested in what's happening. Like, but I'm very interested in hearing, unique, great music. But, it could be 10 years old. It could be a year old. It could be 20, 30 years old. It doesn't really matter. Obviously, better to hear it now than later. But, I'm not. For me, it's, I can probably get, if I do absolutely nothing creative, I don't actually know. It probably would be harder today, because also my idea of what creative work is a bit different. So if I'm working on like a business thing, or building like a course or something else, then that's still creative work to a degree. It's very different from writing music, but that's like a bit of an outlet. But not doing music, I can probably do 2 weeks, like maximum, and then I just if I see a piano, I have to play it. Like, it's physically difficult for me to stay away from that. And that sucks for everybody else, because I'm not that good of a pianist. But I just want to play. Like, I'm just like, I need to get stuff out. And that's also something I forget quite often, that it's like therapy for
me. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a way of processing things.
Yeah.
You know, just like the video game we're looking at right now. It's that, you know, from what I gather,
Yeah.
it's like artists put their thoughts and experiences into different forms, into different creations. I think, again, that's probably one good definition for an artist. By the way, do you have any, like talking about your inspirations, do you have any like significant mentions that you want to point out? I would love to understand your like musical inspirations. Are there any bands or groups or composers or artists?
So yeah, I did used to listen to a lot of Megadeth, like I said, which is where my name about my Mudeth comes from. But also a lot of Radiohead, I think, was a big part of my life. I think Radiohead really opened me up to weird music, because the first time I heard it, I didn't get it. But then I just heard, like, I was sitting in the car one day, I think I traveled with my family somewhere, sitting in the car and listening to it, and I just went into a completely different world. And it like captured, I heard OK Computer first. That was the first album that I heard, which is quite a strong opening for, do you listen to Radiohead?
Yeah, I do. That was the same for me, but my experience was actually like, because you hear the and then what is the track called? That was a bad.
That's this thing. Oh yeah, the beautiful electric piano.
Yeah, that I heard that sound and I was like,
Kidde. Is that Kidde? Kidde, right?
Is it? Okay, maybe I'm mixing up.
I'm
pretty sure I heard OK Computer first, but okay. Anyway, it doesn't matter which album it was, because the experience was the same for me each and every single time. I heard it and I was like, there's that sound that I've been feeling inside of me, because I didn't have any like, obviously I had heard electronic music in different forms, but when I heard that, I just felt like, okay, there it is. That's the thing I've been looking for. And I really, those two albums especially are super, super good. And they have a lot of sounds that I sort of felt like I wanted to pursue as well. So it was really awesome to hear them.
Right. I think even philosophically as a band, like everything that they've done just feels like something that I would want to do if I was in their position. Like when they were successful, rather than repeating the same thing that they did, they'd rather try something different, step away from the formula, because they found their first success, I think, with Pablo Honey, which was a more traditional rock album, and then they came out and they did OK Computer, which is really weird with a lot of electronic and just very unconventional sounds and songs and structures. And then they went and did, I think after that was Kidde, which was, again, they had these jazz influences, and it was just so interesting, the journey that they did. It's like they're constantly like running, they're constantly just moving ahead and just trying to find something interesting.
Yeah.
And it's the music and the direction in which they're going, I think, is super interesting to me.
Yeah, and that's also a group that is a good example of the writing music with texture. Like a lot of the sounds are so interesting and evocative on their own that it doesn't like, there's so much substance in there. It doesn't really take much. Not to say their compositions are simple by any means, but like even in the parts that are simple, you're just like, wow, that sound is so rich on its own that's very, very interesting. But yeah, when I heard them the first time, I remember I started to make artwork, like album cover artwork for my non-existent band that I wanted to do kind of similar kind of stuff. I don't actually think about that very often, but it was actually very influential to me to hear that. But again, it like the feeling was again more of like a there it is, rather than being like, wow, this is completely I mean, don't get me wrong. There were plenty new interesting things there for me, but I sort of, if something captures my attention in a way, you feel like there's something in there that's always been inside of you, and you just kind of linked up to it. That's not all music.
So I think, yeah. So I think that's also something to do. That's something that as someone who's trying to create art, that is something that we need to leave space for. A lot of art, I think, gets annoying when it's too prescriptive, when everything is just spelt out for you. It's when you have those gaps in the feelings, like when you can complete the melody in your head, or you can complete the story in your head. Like even in this game, there's so many things that are left to your imagination, and then the most powerful, like, feeling in the world is when it comes out from inside your head rather than from outside. And I think Radiohead does that a lot, especially with Tom York's lyrics, and like you said, the textures that they use. They just leave a lot of space for you to inhabit.
Yeah. I think that's actually something that I could definitely do more myself, because I can easily get very obsessive about the music.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah, you want to make it perfect. You want to put all of the best ideas in there, and just make it perfect. But it's like you said, it's that space is fascinating, because it needs to be. It's either it's first it's like observed, and then it begins to you begin to ask questions about the space, like why is it there, and what is that space in relation to. This is definitely one of the things that I need to do more in my compositions, because you're trying to be like completely exhaustive in terms of like putting everything there that needs to be in there, but definitely something to learn from. Are there any other
a simple example of that is, like, there are some songs that end on an unresolved note, like on an unresolved chords, like you know the ones that I'm talking about. Yeah, so those, when you hear them, that's something that I fight for sometimes in my projects, like in commercial projects, where the director or whatever will be like, why does it sound unfinished? But the point is that leaving it unfinished makes it kind of itch to a person who's listening to it. It'll stay with them for longer. I don't know, it just feels nice, I guess. There's no other way to describe it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely your head wants to resolve it, and then that also that leads to the person listening to the music again. It's like becomes like this thing that like you said, it itches on you, and it's can't be musically resolved, but you can play the song again and it kind of does the same thing in a sense. Are there any other notable bands you want to mention?
There's like I did listen to a lot of Beatles, I guess. At some stage in my life, I listened to the artist that I was talking about, by the way, was Paul. Oh, frick! I forgot. I'd Googled it and now forgotten again. Living in the Love of the Common People. I just recommend that song. I think it's a great song. Paul Young. It's a very 80s song, but it's a very strong memory from my childhood. There's that. I've listened to a lot of Nine Inch Nails, I guess.
I can see that, yeah. I can feel that.
Yeah. Yeah, like it wasn't like intense bursts of it, but like, yeah, like it's just been there ambiently. So there's not a band that I think my music really tries to replicate, but Snarky Puppy is a band that I really love. Just physically makes me like fill up. Like some of their songs, there's one called I think Think of Gold. And the first few times that I heard it, until it was part of my neural network, until it was already established, I would just literally like well up with tears when it went into the chorus. It's just such a beautiful melody, and I still don't understand why I feel that way. The way the melody comes in. There's one hook in that. There's one motif in that that's just so beautiful. Yeah, I guess a lot of it is just ambient stuff that I would have heard in video games or in movies. Can't specifically call out bands, I think.
Did I already ask your favorite video games? I think I did. Did I?
Oh no, I didn't. Again, there's so many, man. I just feel it feels unfair to like say that this is my favorite video game of all time. But Isaac has been like, I'm just checking how long I've played it. I have 904 hours in Isaac, so it's obviously been a huge part of my life.
Literally,
even though I'm clearly crap at it right now. Yeah, I'm playing really badly right now, but I used to be better. I've played a lot of Skyrim and Fallout. I like that universe. I like the lore that is there in that. But there are a lot of indie games that are super interesting. So there's this one, I think Swedish guy called Niflas. You just search for his name, and he has his game called Knit and Knit Stories. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And the music and the ambience in that, like the sound effects and the environments in that, they're super simple, but they're just incredibly beautiful. And I've followed him on Twitter and like interacted with him a bit. And he's just such a passionate guy about his games and his art. Like he's made a game where the music is procedural. It's literally generated on the fly as you play the games. Like it merges all those aspects of it. But I would definitely like, so Knit and Knit Stories are free. So I think if anyone is interested in games, then they should try that out. Just for the music experience, like the whole feeling of being in those spaces are really cozy. There's that. There's again, these are kind of unknown games that are super impressive to me. There's a game called EG, which is this again very indie game by Remar. I think Remar is also from Sweden, if I'm not wrong. I don't know. Maybe there's something about Sweden that makes people make awesome indie games over there.
The darkness.
It's this game maker game. Is it?
The coldness and the darkness.
And yeah, it's got this amazing story, and it's just made in Game Maker. It's like a one-person effort, but it's got amazing music as well. So Ramar is now part of another team, and they have this company called Ludosity, I think, which has some really cool games as well. Then Celeste, I'm guessing, Maddie Thompson.
Yeah,
so it's a pretty popular game. So back when Maddie was Matt, she had a game called I'm sorry if I'm not saying it correctly or whatever, but she had a game called An Untitled Story. And that is a game that is drawn in paint. The characters are drawn in paint. If you just look up the art, it looks super silly, but it's amazing. It's a Metroidvania. The music is done, I think she did it herself, and it's done by someone just banging on the keyboard, and there are toms being used as melodies and hats being used as melodies, and just these really unconventional things, but it just fits the game so perfectly, and it's a great game as well.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's probably too many to mention.
There's too many. I would have kept going on if you hadn't stepped in.
No, you can keep going if you want. No, just well, I'm probably running out of time out of respect to for your time. But
no, that's fine.
I've started to keep a list of games because it's so hard to remember all of the good stuff. So it every time somebody asks you, it almost feels unfair because it's really tough to remember everything.
And so many of these, like the experience that you've had is dependent. It depends on the context that you've played them in, right? Like it could be a memory that you have while you were in a particular time of your life. That's what it is with music, and that's what it reminds you of. So you can't force someone to play it and have the same experience.
Yeah. And again, that kind of goes back to the writing music in the here and now again, because like you said, like I'm sure many of us have, you know, you have really fond memories of a game and then you go play it and then you kind of feel like the time has passed already. Like you don't enjoy it the same way. It's kind of impossible to go into that same mind space, you know. It's I remember like with Minecraft, I had a lot of good memories playing that with friends, and then it kind of faded out, and then at the end of it we tried to play a bit more, but it just wasn't the same thing anymore. So it's kind of like, because of that same reason, I encourage people to write the music that you can write right now and then release it, because you're probably going to look at it, you know, one day and think like, oh, I'm happy I did that. It's, you know, it was cool, and you know, it was there for you to write during that time, and you know, no one else, no time else. I don't know if that's even English, but so
I'm sure it is.
So
it's almost like a time capsule of your life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's nice to have those memories, and you know, if you look back and you don't really have those pieces of art, may that be video games or music or movies or anything else that sort of encapsulate different periods of your time, it kind of feels a bit empty. And that's, you know, I just try and do that through my own music. I find that to be the kind of the best solution I can have right now. But talking about your sort of future plans, so what's next in store for you? What are you working on something right now, and do you have some kind of plans for the future?
Music wise,
yeah. I mean, well, you can.
So music wise, I have been. So music wise, I have been trying to. So I've been super busy over the last. I think when you mailed me, I did tell you I've been very busy, and I'm just trying to take a break and get away from it for a while now. I'll be taking that 1 month break, and during that time, I think I'll be playing some Isaac and getting back into the game. I want to finish the last volume of it. I want to force myself to play the game so that I can get back into it and start enjoying it and get some ideas, you know. I feel like, I want to make a track. I feel inspired to make a track. Other than that, no, I've been doing a few indie projects for some interesting games, but it's going to be a while before they come out. So I think once they come out, I'll put them onto my Bandcamp and YouTube. I'm not particularly focused on marketing it or whatever. If people like it, they'll like it if they enjoy it. And so much of it is dependent on the context, right? Like when you're in the game and you listen to it, there's a feeling that will be there. Whereas if you just listen to the track by itself, it's not going to be the same thing. So that'll play out as it plays out, I guess. But yeah, I just hope to make good stuff, I guess, both professionally, like with my ad work and everything, and this.
Anything else you're non-musically looking forward?
I've been doing I've been actually editing podcasts. I've made a podcast for a science magazine called Manga Bay, which I'm quite proud of, actually. So do you listen to Radiolab? Have you heard Radiolab?
No, I don't think so.
So they have these podcasts where they use sound very illustratively. If they for example, they're talking about color, they depict color as with a choir. There's one episode of thing where they depict how different animals see color, where we can see only this part of the frequency spectrum from red to blue. The mantis shrimp, for example, can see from ultraviolet to infrared, stuff like that. So that range, they're communicating it with different notes of a choir. So they use sound in super interesting ways that way. And that's always been a benchmark for me in terms of sound design. So I've been having a lot of fun making podcasts and like trying stuff like that. So I did a podcast for this science magazine, which is about bioacoustics, about how acoustics are used to study animals, for conservation, for studying their behavior and stuff like that. So there's 3 episodes of that that's recently come out. I really enjoyed that. So I'm going to be trying more in that space. I have my own personal podcast, which this year it was screened at the EBU festival. The European Broadcasting Union had a 50-year anniversary, or I don't know, maybe it was 100 years. I'm really bad at dates again, of the first radio broadcast. So I had an episode of my podcast which was screened over there, which was again nice. People enjoyed it. So I'm trying to get into the whole storytelling aspect of sound and music. That's interesting to me.
Nice, cool. Well, I mean, make sure to send those over to me as well. I'll put them in the description so people can see what we're talking about as well. I feel like, well, I mean, we talked a lot about artistry already, but I usually, my second to last question is, what is your definition of an artist? I think we've touched on that quite a bit already, but in case there's something you wanna sort of specifically add to that, then feel free to do so.
I mean, I think everyone does have artistry in them. Everyone has that creativity, like, happens on a daily level. Like, people can be creative, like when they're making jokes or when they're doing stuff that is part of our lives. So to have maybe not make it so. If you want to be an artist, maybe you don't have to be so definite about I want to be this. Do you know what I'm saying? Just allow yourself to be the person that you are and let that come through, and try to have life experiences. I think if you have experiences in life that are more honest, and if you're open to those experiences in the first place, that's going to show in your art. It's going to show in the way you tell a story. Like, music is ultimately storytelling. And if you can process these stories in a better way, then you can tell them in a better way and be more sensitive to them.
Yeah, and that's like usually not a very great sign if you're spending more time explaining to yourself how and why you're an artist instead of just being an artist, like doing in my experience, the people whom I consider to actually be artists, they don't feel comfortable calling themselves that. It's more like they occupy a state of being, like that. It's just something they are, something they do. So it's kind of defeats the purpose if you're more concerned about how you can label yourself rather than what are the things that you are doing.
Yeah, I think, and especially, like, I sound like an old fart right now, but with this whole with social media marketing and so many people like trying to use those as their resume, I think people feel like you have to prove that you're something before you are. There's a lot of posturing about this, that, I'm this and I name drop this, and I don't know. Again, this is my experience, but it's a very unsatisfying way to live that life. Just be it in the first place and don't talk about it so much, and you'll find your way, I think.
Yeah, and people don't feel good when they feel like they're faking something, or they when they say that they're one thing but they don't feel like they are that thing, in their bones.
Or maybe they do and they're delusional about it as well. That's not a good route to go down either. That there are people who feel that they've made it and they're artists because they have so many followers and stuff like that. But I don't know. It feels like a very hollow.
That's absolutely true. Like, you get. We on a previous podcast we talked about this the concept of, like, when you see success in one avenue of your life, you can take that as a sign of kind of like omni-competence. And you can take that success and use it to convince yourself of something else that you're not. And that's obviously a super unhealthy position to occupy, because usually you're only fooling the people who are just like you, but you're never fooling the people who are the actual thing. So you can choose to spend time in that sphere, but it's not good for you if you really want to be the other thing.
Yeah. And coincidentally, like one of the games that I'm working on right now is about it's a game by Leather Ice Cream. It's called Myths Are 100% True. Excuse me. It's a really weird game because Leather has these really weird ideas. And part of like the whole thing is that this takes place in a universe where money has no value. And this person goes into that universe from our world where he's all about the money. So there's that concept of money being a measure of success. And some of the bosses, in fact, I think all of the bosses are based on games that have been failures. So the concept of what exactly is a failure in a game. Like, how do you define failure in a game? Like, obviously, there's a monetary thing. But I learned that Jazz Jackrabbit, you know Jazz Jackrabbit 2, I'm guessing. It's quite a famous game.
Yeah.
Have you heard of it?
I think so, yes. Did you? Maybe I didn't hear the pronunciation correctly, but...
Jazz Jackrabbit.
Have I seen that?
There's
no, I don't think so. I'm mixing this with something else.
Okay, so I was really surprised to learn that Jazz Jackrabbit 2 was a failure, because in my head it was this super successful game because I'd heard about it so much, I'd played the demo so much, and the music was awesome, the game was awesome, and all that. But I was quite surprised to hear that. So yeah, like a lot of things that we consider successful and based on their monetary thing it can be wrong, basically, and be surprised by how wrong that can be. Sorry, I think I'm low on energy. And
that's fine.
Now.
We can wrap up here. Last question. If you could send a message to everyone's smartphone in the world, so it's going to appear on the lock screen on everybody's phone if they want to open it up, you can send a message there. Everyone on the planet with a smartphone simultaneously. So what would you send?
I would say just stop thinking in terms of groups. I don't know if that's going to be something that people listen to, but stop identifying as a group, because I think that can be super harmful. Of course, there's a lot of comfort in it in a lot of circumstances, but you can see the kind of shit that happens because of that. And that's something that really bothers me on a personal level. And that includes like calling yourself a musician and saying that you're different because you're a musician, or saying that you're a successful musician or whatever. Or even like saying that I'm a gamer. Like some of that language can be quite harmful. But yeah, basically don't identify as a group, identify with ideas, not with people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's super important in today's world. Seems like it's people choose one way or the other, and we're far more than just our group identity, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, again, thank you for your time. This has been a fun conversation. 3 hours went past, at least for me, very quickly. So,
yeah, for me as well. I'm so sorry I couldn't show my stupid face on camera, but I hope the footage is marginally interesting. I played pretty badly.
Yeah, well, I can see how I can put this together in the video edit. Unfortunately, the video feed for me is not super smooth, so I don't think that's going to be like
Okay.
a super enjoyable viewing experience. But I'm sure we can come up with something in the edit. But maybe hopefully there's a next time, and then we can get your webcam working as well.
Yeah, I had a great time too, Markus. Thank you so much. It was fun just discussing these ideas.
Yeah, no, it's been a blast. And to everybody listening or watching, you should check out your music. You're a great composer, and I hope you get to work more and more on projects that fulfill your creative needs as well, because it's really, really good stuff, and clearly a ton of people think so as well. So can't wait for those for the games you're gonna release, and any other musical releases you might have coming up.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And we'll link those in the description as well, so people know what to look for. Awesome, cool. Let's go have something to eat, I suppose, to get our energy back up. And
I think I'm gonna go get a coffee then.
Yeah, awesome, cool. All right, take care.
All right.
I'll talk to you soon.
You do. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.